Hello, welcome to the Honors Informations webinar. My name is Calvin Tan. I'm the Honors Program Leader. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the land on which we meet today. On behalf of UQ, I pay our respect to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connection to country. We recognize their valuable contribution to Australian and global society. So we are going to start these sessions with an overview of the programs. So today we are very fortunate. We are joined today by current Bachelor of Advanced Finance Economics students, honors students, peer hearings, and also two alumni, Andre Rim and Chantel Reed, who will participate in a Q&A panel discussions at the end. We are also joined by Jackie and Ian from our students administration team, and Liz Huggins will also be available to assist with any of the base and BET honor students with a specific inquiry. Should you wish to ask any questions of the panels here or our students administration team, please submit your questions in the Q&A sessions here, and so that we can address them later on. And we have closed captionings enabled today to make this webinar more accessible for viewer. If you would like to turn this on and off, you can do so by clicking the live transcript button on your screen and following the prompts. And of course, if you experience any technical issues or have any comments, please use the chat functions and we'll do our best to address them. So normally I get asked the following three questions. So I'll start out by answering those three questions at the beginning of the presentations here. So first one, why would you choose UQ Business School? And then why would you choose UQ Business School honors degree? And the third question, why do I want to do an extra honors year? So for those BCom or BBASMAN students here. So I'll answer all these three questions in the first few slides. So let's start with the first questions. Why would you choose UQ Business School? So the University of Queensland Business School is actually independently ranked as one of the top business schools in Australia and among the leading institution worldwide. And UQ Business School is also renowned internationally for its research work and is classed as above world standard for all research field by Australian government agency ERA. So ERA stands for Excellence in Research for Australia. And the school also has a very strong track record for winning highly competitive Australian Research Council grants. And our research is regularly cited in the world's top tier journals. So that is the first question. So the answer for the first question. And the answer for the second question is why would you like to choose a business school honors degree here? So I will provide you with at least 5 reasons here. So the first reason, you would have developed some analytical skill set throughout your undergraduate degree. However, in an honors year, you take those skill set to the next level, developing your ability to design the most appropriate method to answer your research questions or focus. And as a result, graduates are able to break down all the complex issues here and comprehend the solutions and to answer those questions. And second reason, in your thesis, so this is a major component of your honors years, and you will be required to identify a research gap in a field of your choice. So be it in corporate finance, accounting, management, or tourism. So you will contribute to this literature in your field by doing a research in that area and writing a report that contribute to the valuable new insight into the world. And at the end of the thesis, you are likely to be an expert in your area. And the third reason here is our honors cohort actually poses a great opportunity to involve yourself in a group of like-minded, ambitious students who are open to challenging and learning from each other. Likewise, our teaching staff and research supervisor. And the fourth reason here, through business school honors program, you will forge a lasting connections with all the honors students here because you see them regularly in class. When I was an honors student in 2006, so that was a long time ago, and until now, I still remain in good contact with my cohort. So all of them, and then all of them are living in different parts of the world, and we have a good contact. And we also chat online as well. And sometimes we meet out face to face. And the fifth reason here for an honors degree, so the class size are actually very small, normally about 10 students in each of the class here. So therefore, each of the instructor will actually know you by name and everyone will have a chance to actively participate in the discussion. And this is very different from an undergraduate degree in which you sit in a class with more than a few hundred students here. And discussion will also be very different from your undergraduate courses because you will find that there's no correct answer in honors classes. It all depends on your arguments and assumptions here. So it's quite different from your undergraduate degree. So now let's look at the third questions that I get asked a lot here is, so on a personal level, why would you want to do an honors year, extra years here? Of course, for our BAFE or BATE students here, so why pursue a major or research pathway here? So let me provide you with the following 4 reasons. So the first one, the possibility of better job opportunity. As an example, our honors graduates are often highly sought after by investment banks and over other graduates because they possess the right analytical skills to thrive in organizations straight out of university. And the second reason, you would have the chance to develop your own research thesis and work closely with an advisory team in this area. And typically, your advisory team will consist of one principal advisor and or an associate advisor here. So it could be 1 or 2 advisors. And the third reason here, undertaking an honors program also offer you a pathway into a UQ PhD program or a PhD program in a top ranked university worldwide. So in 2019, so one of our finance honors students managed to secure one and only one international full scholarship with stipend from National University of Singapore and us to pursue a PhD in finance. And also we have a lot of different examples as well in different parts of the world. So these are, and the last reason, of course, the fourth reason here, if eligible, you will be able to access financial support to help with the fundings of this upskilling venture. So financial support may include HEADS or HELPS, debt, or one of the university scholarships. So in terms of scholarships, so if we look at the next slide here, so there are many UQ scholarships available for honors students as well as BAFE and BEST students. So I encourage you to go online and explore all these options here. If you apply for the honors program, I really urge you to apply for a scholarship as well due to a small cohort. So typically in each of the semester, you have about 20 students here. So you have a smaller cohort. So the odds are much greater when to be awarded for a scholarship here. And now let's talk about what you will need to do in an honors year, this one whole year here. It is actually very different from your undergraduate degree, which is coursework based. So basically go for exam and assignments, and it's very different. So in the honors year, you need to write a research thesis, which is a major component of your degree. And this thesis itself is actually equivalent to 8 units of coursework. So this 8 units, of course, is equivalent to a semester worth of coursework. And you can see from this slide, so no matter how you structure your program, so 50%, so that is 8 units of the programs here, will be spent working on your thesis. So that's the major components of your honors year here. So of course, we will equip you with the needed research skill to conduct a thesis. You will participate in 4 research coursework during your program. So shown here, of course, as a 8 unit here. And these research courses aim to focus on developing the following skill set. So your econometric skill set and analysis and critical thinking and presentation skill set and etc. here. And the common questions that we get from students looking at doing an honors is, how do honors program differ from master program? So honors programs is different because honors program consists of an additional year of study during which you will build on the skill and knowledge gained during your undergraduate program by completing a self-directed research project. So whereas if you're looking at the master programs here, so they are designed for those with no previous knowledge in the field of study who are seeking formal qualifications for professional development or change of career directions. So it's quite different from both between the honors programs and master program. And for BAFE students and BED students here, so it's similar in terms of the program structure, but there are differences as well. So I will advise you to look on your programs plans here. So following on, click on the website here and to look at the programs plan. And then the next question that I get asked the most is, what is a research thesis here? So a research thesis actually addresses an important issues or a problem in an original research project. So this might seem to be a huge task, but don't worry, you're not alone in this journey. So typically as a new student, you will meet with your potential supervisor and discuss topics that are of interest to you. So if you are interested in finance, then you can look on a website, and then we will also structure those meet and greet. So you will be able to meet your potential supervisor and talk to them about an interesting project that you might be interested in or topics. So that alongside your supervisor, you would then come up with a feasible research topic or area to work on during your honors year. And if you are not too sure where to start when looking for inspirations of those honors thesis topics here, I will encourage you to look at UQ eSpace and search for honors thesis, for example. And at the end of the first semester, you are required to do an oral presentations of your proposal. And at the end of the second semester, you are required to submit a thesis that's approximately 100 pages. So these are the main milestones that you have to do. So oral presentations, so 10%, and then 10% of your overall grade, and then 90% on your written thesis here. Next, so again, so a lot of the students are very keen. Then they are asking how to get a head start. So to get a head start, so you can probably start browsing academic profile. So looking at my colleagues' profile, and including myself as well, and talk to us and identify a potential supervisor of your choice. So of course, depending on our research area, so you can talk to us what you are interested in. And even if we are not working in the area, we can direct you to the right person here. And this is strongly encouraged, but not a compulsory process. So you don't have to get a supervisor or a research topic before you apply or before you start, because we will do all this in the first few weeks here. And then let's look at about the research process here. So the research process, typically the first few weeks, what students would do. During the orientations, we organize meet and greet for students and potential supervisor to meet. So they will talk about what interests them the most. And then the research supervisor, potential research supervisor will respond and talk about what interests them, and you can find a supervisor from there. And of course, it might be a few conversations, and you can talk to various supervisors to find the supervisor that is most suitable for your projects here. And then explore topics, so not just an area, so it's a research questions. And so it's still on the previous slide. So the second process here, yes, so explore topics. And then once you finalize the topics, so typically you have a research questions that you want to test. And then you have a key hypothesis. So for example, you think this might happen. So this is the hypothesis that you want to test. So this would be the third step. And then of course, if you have a hypothesis that you want to test, you have to design the best way to test it, and then to collect the data, and then to do the empirical testing. And once you get the result, write out the process. And of course, throughout the whole process, you will be writing out as well, rather than just starting at the very end, because you will be doing a literature review, hypothesis, and then you write out the whole thesis and submit. And for some example on the next slide, you can see these are just some of the example thesis topic from accounting, from management, tourism, finance, strategy, and informations. So I wouldn't read all of them, but just to give you an overview here. So maybe I'll pick finance because that's the area that I'm working. So in finance, so there are at least two topics that I put it out here. So the first one, so one of our honors students actually looking at short selling and corporate carbon emissions around the world, and another honor students looking at political corruption. So it's also a little bit political study or corporate finance type of study here, and labor investment efficiency. So the topic can be very, very wide and could be depending on the area that you are working on. And of course, your advisor will advise you whether it's a feasible topics to finish within a year here. And also, and on the next slide here, as an honor student, you would have access to additional resources previously not available to you as an undergraduate student. So for example, there are opportunity for paid employment within the school. So most of our honor students are working as a tutor for undergraduate courses or postgraduate courses. So they also help with marking and research assistant work. And also there are some internship opportunity available for you to work on industry research project with various company. And you will also have access to school research seminar. Normally, the business school will invite top researchers from around the world to present their work, and academic staff members and research students at our research seminars here. And there's also an honors retreat on campus, which is a space dedicated solely to honors students. So you no longer have to compete with other students to get access to a working space or a computer. And also UQ Business School have subscribed to many databases that can facilitate your research. So it's just a click of a button so you can download a lot of financial data. So we can talk more about those databases during the orientations. And on the next slide, you might be wondering, so what are the career outcomes for our honor students? At a glance, or at least there are two options upon graduations. So one, you will be in high demand with employer globally because many of the companies seek to employ our honor students because they recognize the rigorous research training that our honor students undertake. As a result, your ability to critically analyze and also questions different things here. So your skill set will make you desirable in the eyes of recruiter. So for example, when I graduated from honors here, so I found myself able to constructively question a lot of opinions and statements, which I wouldn't have been able to do so before. And the second pathway or second options upon graduation, as I mentioned earlier, you will also be able to apply for UQ PhD program or PhD program in top university around the world. And here is showing you how your class or honors is calculated. So of course, for BAVE and BET students, so it's calculated a little bit differently. So this information can be found in your program's rules. So if you have any question, feel free to type it in the chat, and Liz will be able to help you with your questions here. So admissions requirement. So here are the admissions requirement for our honors program. You need to have at least a GPA of 5.5 or above in your undergraduate study to apply. So you can apply either for Bachelor of Business Management honors, or you can apply for Bachelor of Commerce honors program. So if you are thinking of applying for business management honors, you will need to have completed or about to graduate with a Bachelor of Business Management or a Bachelor of International Hotel and Tourism Management or equivalent. So for BCom honors degree, so you you will need to have completed or about to graduate with a Bachelor of Commerce or equivalence. And you can apply for honors year up to 2 years after your graduation, and there are 2 intakes per year, semester 1 and semester 2. And eligibility requirements and applications for our BASE students and also BEST students are outlined here. So typically, they are very, very similar, but there are some differences. So the similarity pretty much is, so you need a minimum of GPA of 5.5 and above to apply for the honors programs here for the research pathway here. And all the other details, I'll leave it to you to have a quick look. So what are the courses that you will need to have done to be eligible for these programs here for the research pathway. And here are the important dates for honors students commencing in semester 2, 2023, and also semester 1, 2024. Please note that when you're applying for the programs, your thesis topics and supervisors are not required. There will be time to arrange this when you commence in the program. So we'll have meet and greet sessions. And in the first few weeks, we'll talk to you and meet you and then try to find a supervisor and a research topic. And also, if you are not graduating this year, the dates are the same each year. So therefore, now is actually a great time to start contemplating if honors is something that you would like to do to ensure you meet the admissions requirement by those dates. And for our BASE and BEST students, so the semester applications closing dates do not apply. So however, the semester start dates are the same. So I'd now like to invite and introduce the members of our panel, starting with Andre Lim. Andre completed her Bachelor of Business Management honors or Bachelor of Business Management at the University of Queensland, majoring in Marketing and Sustainability in 2018. And thereafter, she completed her honors year at UQ in 2019. And during her honors year, Andre took part in many activity competitions representing UQ at various events. So she was the recipient of many awards. So just to name a few, so University Medal, Best Poster at the conference, Singapore Alumni Excellent Award, and first prize in Milga Invitational Case competitions in the US. And Andre now is currently based in Singapore. She is a senior consultant at Aspire Research and Consulting firm. And Andre remains passionate about helping others understand market by using data to tell a story. And Chantal Reed, so since graduating in 2018, Chantal has carved up an investment advisory career in a fast-growing renewable energy sector. Chantal's passions for this sector started somewhat by chance, but grew during her honors year, where she dedicated her thesis to energy markets. Today, she works at Australian Renewable Energy Agency, one of the cornerstone funding agency in Australia, decarbonization transitions, where she helps evaluate and develop investment into innovative early stage renewable energy projects and peer hearings. So peers is a current BASE student, so majoring in finance and due to graduate in July 2023. So in a few months' time. So currently, Piers works part-time at Vantage Performance, which is a boutique turnover consulting firms in the city while completing his study. He attended St. John's College, a UQ residential college, for 3 years, where he was the student club treasurer, a residential advisor, and academics tutor. Piers is currently researching on how opportunistic litigations against green patented technology and how that would actually influence future firm-level green corporate innovation strategy. So let's welcome Andre, Piers, and Chantal. So welcome.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great.
Hello. Hi, Kelvin. Great to be here.
Great, great. Hi, everyone. So maybe I'll start off by asking some questions here. So maybe start off with Andre or Chantal here. So why did you choose to do your honors here at UQ Business School? Maybe Andre, you can, I'll start by asking you. So why did you choose to do your honors here at UQ Business School, and then Chantal later on? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. So why I chose honors at UQ. Firstly, I think I really enjoyed my undergrad at UQ. It provided me with a good starting ground. And secondly was because at least because I was intending to, I'm from Singapore. I was intending to go back to Singapore. I from what I understood at the time, honors having an honors kinds of at least puts me on par with peers or even above par, in terms of having that extra something that not everyone may have.
Great, great. So so basically, makes you stand out from the rest of your
Yeah,
peers.
yeah.
Great. And Chantal, any of
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have a particularly great reason. It was more so that I wasn't in the year before, well, when I was due to graduate from my undergrad, I wasn't really sure where I was going and then, what I wanted to do. And in my last semester, that's where I actually found out about renewable energy for the first time, which seems crazy because it's everywhere now. And I became obsessed with it. And I was like, well, what am I going to do here? I've only got 6 months of kind of coursework in this now. And one of the lecturers that I really highly respected urged me to do this honors program. So I kind of just took it a little bit on a whim, but I think it was a way to kind of be productive, but also have a year to kind of figure out what I wanted to do in terms of jobs afterwards.
Thank you. Thanks for your honesty and your answer here. Thank you. And Piers, so maybe let me start with the other questions here. So how have you found yourself working part-time and studying? So how
Yeah,
do
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it can be difficult at times for sure. So I sort of work 3 days a week and then sort of study the rest. But I think it's really good and I really enjoy it because I'm sort of getting that real world experience, but also having that sort of academic focus as well, going hand in hand. And I think it is very manageable while you're completing your studies. But there's obviously some things that you can do to sort of best put you in the right place. And I think the main thing is having really open communication with your employer and also with your supervisor, and sort of adjusting both schedules so that you can really you can make sure your university deliverables are getting done on time, and that you're tracking along well with that, and also that you're giving 100% to work. And I think the other thing is just sort of finding balance, and everyone sort of always throws it around, but I think, yeah, you just sort of find balance and make sure you take time out for yourself because, yeah, it can be a bit hectic, and yeah, just enjoy the year because it's a really great year. So
Great. Thanks, Pierre. So, Andre, so can you tell us a little bit the biggest difference? So, what do you find to be the biggest difference between your undergraduate programs and the honors here?
For me, I think the biggest difference was how honors was a lot more self-directed learning. So, there's a lot more learning that you do on your own by reading journal articles. I also really enjoyed the academic discourse with the peers. So, initially for me, because I'm not one to read journal articles for fun, and then we would have to discuss it in class. But so initially it was a bit intimidating. But I think once you get the hang of it, after a couple of weeks, that's something I really enjoy, being able to debate the things that we learn in class a lot more than in undergrad.
Yeah, so I think after the honors year, so I tend to find myself so as an alumni as well. So basically, so you just keep questionings about the practice or questionings about different things. So I think so that critical thinking is really important. And thank you. And Chantal, so can I ask, so what are the skill set that you have taken away from the honors program which have been applicable in your career so far?
Yeah, I would say, the things that the honors really gives you is critical thinking skills. So the ability to question. So in your undergrad, you're kind of like just given, it's almost like you're given a formula, learn that formula, and then in your honors, you're being told to question that formula and whether it's the right, the best one to use. So I think the critical thinking skills definitely sets you apart very early on when you graduate, because I think a lot of grads that have just done an undergrad come out not really having that ability to question and I guess oppose people that are more senior than them, especially. But I would say that as you go down further along in your career, you should hopefully be developing those skills anyway if you work at a good organization. But I think what still at least remains true, and I'm just over 4 years out from honours now, what I still think is a consistent theme is the honours thesis is always a thing that comes up in topic. And I was in an interview the other day and they always ask, and it really sets you apart. It's a great talking topic because it's a niche area, but you're basically the kind of specialist in it, which is pretty cool to have that so young.
Thank you. Thanks, Sancha. So Andre, do you have anything to add to that point? So the skill set that you have taken away from your honors year and how would that, yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Chantel. I picked the critical thinking in my own speaker notes as well. I think especially in my line of work as a consultant, so I am doing research. I'm using the qualitative skills I learned. I'm using the quantitative skills I learned as well during my honors years. I mean, not as intensely, but it is something that has helped me in my career. And it just happened that actually I didn't think about going into research before my honors years, but after going through that whole thesis, and like Chantel said as well, it really sets you apart, and it helped me to kind of kickstart my interest in research, and that's where I landed in industry as well.
Yeah.
And Kellen, may I just add as well?
Yes, definitely.
It's a bit cheeky, but I actually used it during my honors year as a bit of leverage during like getting a grad job. So I kind of like shopped my thesis around at a bunch of places as a kind of talking point to be like, hey, I'd love to get your thoughts on my honors thesis. And that actually ended up leading to, I got a job at KPMG while I was still doing my honors thesis, and I got a job in the energy team, largely because of that conversation that happened from that thesis. So it's something that I think a lot of people are genuinely interested in from like an employer perspective.
Yeah, excellent. That's a great tips and also testimony to our UQ honors program. Thank you. Thanks, Chantal. And Piers, I was just wondering, so what are you aspiring to do after your upcoming graduation in a few months' time? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, really going to play into what Andre and Chantal were saying before. But I'm going off to do mergers and acquisitions at Deloitte, but specifically in their IP advisory team. And my sort of thesis is actually related to intellectual property. And so sort of from that sort of inspired me to go and look into this. And yeah, it was the exact same sort of the interview. One of my interviews, the whole time I just talked about my thesis. And it really does set you apart from sort of other people. It gives you certain skills, but it also gives you that sort of, it's almost like not necessarily like an expert view on something, but it's you are very sort of specialized, and you can go into great detail talking about something, and it does show your sort of analytical skills and your comprehension skills. So yeah, so going off to do that, it's going to be really interesting. It's sort of continuing what I've done in my thesis into the real world. And I think after that, probably going on to do some extra study and the rest down the line. So it should be really interesting. Yeah,
thank you. Thanks, Pierre. So yes, so now probably it's time to look at some of the questions from the Q&A here. So I think I'll probably answer a few first. So one of the questions here, would it make sense for someone doing a double degrees, for example, Bachelor of IT and Bachelor of Business, to do an honors program? Yes, I would say so. So for example, so we also have students working in the fintech area. So like cryptocurrency or fintech area. area, so they need to have a let's say IT skill set. So, or depending on the topics itself. So, but this you can see as its name suggests, fintech. So it's finance and technology here. So yes, definitely likely to land on those topics as well, and even business management. So again, just depending on the research questions that you want to answer. And at the same time, I think I got one questions regarding to business analytics as well. So for the BCom honors here, including information systems. So sure. So we have students looking at business analytics. So looking at the, let's say, customer satisfactions, or looking at data from online retailers or different platform. So how to react. So business analytics is definitely one of the things that you can do as well for your honors thesis. And also one of the questions here is the difference between the honors degree and master. So I think that's still one of the questions from the audience here. So for honors degree, so for example, if you're doing a bachelor, if you're currently doing a Bachelor of Commerce degree in finance, so you want to do a Bachelor of Commerce honors degree, so you need to have a background information in finance or accounting first to do those honors degrees. Whereas for Master or Commerce degree is different. So it's for those, let's say, students or people who have, let's say, graduated with a law degree and or science degree or engineering degree, they want a career change or professional development, then they come and do an accounting degree or finance master degree. So they are less in-depth in that sense here. And also, let me see if there's any other questions that we can answer. Oh, so I think so. There are also some questions regarding to whether there are some credits from diplomas in business. So let's say from other university, whether they can get some credit. So I think that our administrating team will be able to answer those questions more specific to, because it will be quite different from different university. So might have different agreements with UQ. So exemptions will be different from case to case. And is there, is it beneficial to do honors as an honors resource? So human resource major, are there many HR students to do finance? So again, this one is hard to answer here. So again, beneficial. So in terms of job applications, yes. But at the same time, we also have students, so not many. So in terms of HR honors students, but we do have business management honors students here. And also some of the students, when they are doing those human resource major here, so they are not just thinking of going to the industry. So some of them actually prefer, or they would like to do a PhD degree. So this is another pathway that they do. So they do an honors degree so that they can get into a PhD degree and to become an academics or a researcher here. So it's quite different. So you have two career outcome or pathway here. And let me see if there's any things. Oh, so also one of the questions here, can you elaborate more on what coursework refer to? Is it similar to the modules we are taking as an undergraduate students? Similar, but also different. Similar in a way that, yes, it will be like a class. So for thesis, so there's no class. So basically it's a meeting with your research supervisor. So self-directed, and also with your supervisor help guidance and to do your honors thesis. But whereas for research coursework, you go for class or in person or Zoom. So you would have assignments or writing a critics for research paper. So for all these type of coursework, so basically they expose you to different areas and also teach you different research skill sets. So for example, how do you design a method, or what would be the method that is most appropriate for the research questions or interests? So in this case, you are learning the skill set that is required to do an honors thesis here. So similar in terms of format. Yeah. And also for the panels here, so maybe any one of you can answer as well. Did you find the transition hard going from undergraduate study to honors degree? So anyone's?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one. Yeah, I mean, it is a big transition, and I think the main challenge I found is you go from a sort of university course where you have like very set deadlines that are very sort of short to a year-long project that you obviously have to sort of chip away at slowly and can't leave, to the last semester or the last few weeks. You have to really be going from the get-go. So I think it is a big difference, but I think with sort of, as long as you organize yourself and you sort of plan and you set yourself sort of mini deadlines and you set these up with your supervisor as well, it is a really manageable task. And I think it's not a huge transition if you set yourself up right. But yeah, it is very different. But with that, the sort of coursework is very tailored towards your thesis. So you sort of will learn bits in there that will complement your thesis and will help out with that. So it's a bit of a transition, but it's not too difficult.
Yeah, great. Any others from our panels? Any advice or any? Yeah.
I would just maybe one piece of advice beyond what Pia said about taking more breaks, which is really good advice. I would recommend not doing the approach that I took in doing a thesis, which was spending all summer researching about renewables and deciding what my own topic would be before actually going to a supervisor. It is a much better way to go to a supervisor first in like a general area that you might be interested in, and finding that supervisor and talking to them and then working with them to create a topic, because doing it the other way around, you could end up like what I ended up finding was there was no one particularly in the business school that could, I guess, was an expert in what I was in my topic. So it makes it so much more difficult. And because of that, way more work was put on top of me. So I don't necessarily regret it though, because it helped me later on, but be aware that it will put a lot of work on you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the advice. Yes.
I think one more thing to add as well was that, yes, it is a little bit of a learning curve initially, especially with the number of readings that you'll have to do. But I think one of the things that really helped pull me through the year was like making friends in honors and also asking seniors if you know any about like tips and tricks, because I felt that really helped to give me a head start for honors years, having a friend or knowing or just like asking around for people who have done it before, and like learning from their mistakes. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, thank you for all this advice here. And also one of the questions from the attendees here is asking, so in terms of in the finance honors here, so what's the difference between traditional finance and quantitative finance? So traditional finance will be more like the corporate finance type of questions, capital structure or merger and acquisitions. And then if it's a quantitative finance, so as its name suggests, so it will be focusing on, let's say, stock return. So looking at the left scale, left tail. So basically volatility. So a little bit more of a econometrics related type of questions here. And of course the quantitative finance here, so will require a lot more of a quantitative skill. So but you will learn in your honors year. And of course, we also have students, so with, let's say, a Bachelor of Maths degree, so like art in maths, and then comes into the Bachelor of Commerce honors degree and to do with a finance degree. So you can see a combinations of honors, dual degree here actually helps as well for your honors thesis. But again, depending on the area that you want to work on. So for example, for Chantal, so if you want to work on renewable energy, so again, so a business school is not really like a course that we offer. We do touch on sustainability and different things, but again, so if you have other, let's say, so at UQ Business School for your honors thesis, you can even have supervisor from other school as well. So as long as there's one advisor from business school here, so you can have two advisor, or even if you need it. So let's say if it's really a need, you can have three advisor. So one from engineering school, one from business school, the other one maybe from law school. So it just depending on how complicated, but unlikely for an honors degree to be that complicated for a year to finish, because you only have a year. For PhD degree, yes, makes sense. So 3.5 years or 4 years. So for an honors degree, 1 year, typically 1 or 2 advisor here. So it's possible. And let me see if there's any other questions. So yes, there's also other questions about the art degree and the business management degree. So again, so depending on the research topics that you work on, so I've seen topics like talking about the auction, so like auction, so in terms of art. So yes, so again, so it's just basically the limit is the sky. So yeah, so any degree helps in your honors year as long as you meet the GPA, and also having additional knowledge which just makes you stand out from the rest. If let's say the topics that you are applying to require specific knowledge or discipline knowledge here. So I think so we have answered pretty much. Oh yeah, so just one more questions here as well. So choosing the different structures in your, because you have to do 8 units in one semester. So whether you are doing one coursework plus, let's say, 6 units of the research thesis later on, or 4+4. So basically doing 2 coursework in the first semester, and then 2 coursework in the second semester here. So it's just a flexibility that you can do. But most of the time, we advise students to do all the courses early in the semester, and then focus more in the second semester for their thesis here, because you need the research skill set to be able to do your thesis. So it would be better off, so probably having the do more of your coursework first, and then do your thesis later. But we do offer the flexibility here, because some of the courses might not be offered in the first semester or second semester, or maybe depending on your life circumstances. So maybe you're busier in the first semester, not second semester. So it's up to you. But generally, so I would say 3 courses in the first semester, and then 1 course in second semester. And I think we pretty much answer all the questions from the Q&A here. So maybe just to close this sessions here, maybe just one last thing. So from any one of you, or even each of you here, so any last advice that you want to give to our potential honors students here that you can think of, or anything? So any advice, or not necessarily on the honors, could be on jobs or different things. So I think it will be applicable to them too. Yeah.
I think I'll go. So I think one of the advice I give is to remember that, the honors year is not a race. It's a 1-year program. It's quite intensive. So do give yourself breaks. As Piers did mention, enjoy your time. For a few of you, it might be your last time in uni. So do give yourself also some time to breathe and to enjoy that year as well.
Thank you. Yes. And anything from Chantal or Piers?
No, I think just like exactly those remarks. I ended up working harder rather than smarter. And so I sort of burnt myself out and became slower, and just don't do that. So just take more breaks.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely pace yourself. And I think the other thing is definitely try and find a topic that you enjoy, because it is a long process, and you may sort of just think, oh, it's just a year, I'll just get it done. But when you get into the sort of the 6th, the 7th, the 8th month, if you don't enjoy your topic, it can be really hard to sort of to sit down and do it. So yeah, definitely look for something that you're passionate about, and just think that when you get to the end, make sure you're doing something that motivates you. But yeah.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you, everyone. So I'd like to take this time to thanks Andres and Chantel and Piers here. Thank you. And also I'd like to thank the students for attending these sessions. And I'd like to encourage you to apply by visiting the above web link. So it's coming up here. So you can click on the link here. And if you have any questions, please contact us on the above details here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.